Ladies, let's talk about something powerful, something that can completely flip the game. Have you ever found yourself staring at your phone, waiting for a text that never comes? Have you ever felt that awful sinking feeling when a man you thought was interested suddenly pulls away, goes quiet, or worse, acts like you don't even exist? I know how frustrating that can be. And if you've ever been tempted to double text, check his social media, or ask him outright, "Did I do something wrong?" Stop right there. Today, I'm going to show you the Stoic comeback, a response so powerful, so effortlessly magnetic, that it will make him feel the weight of ignoring you. Here's the hard truth. Chasing a man, explaining yourself, or trying to fix things will only push him further away. Men don't respond to words. They respond to absence. They don't regret losing a woman who begs for attention. They regret losing a woman who becomes unattainable. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to reveal will completely change the way you handle any man who ignores you. If you're ready to turn the tables, let's begin. 1. Detach emotionally. Control your reaction. The moment he starts pulling away, you feel it deep in your chest, the sharp, sinking feeling of uncertainty. You check your phone, wondering if you missed a message. You replay your last conversation, searching for a clue, a sign, anything that might explain why he's suddenly distant. And then, without thinking, you reach for your phone. Your fingers hover over the keyboard, tempted to send that one text. "Hey, is everything okay?" Stop. This is the exact moment where most women lose their power. They give in to emotion. They react. They seek clarity, validation, and reassurance from a man who, let's be honest, isn't giving them any. And the cruel irony: the more you reach out, the more he pulls away. The more you try to fix things, the more he loses interest. But what if I told you that the most powerful response isn't a text, a call, or even a single word? What if the most effective way to make him feel your absence is to do absolutely nothing? Men are wired differently. Unlike women who often seek emotional connection through communication, men process attraction through challenge, uncertainty, and space. The second they know they have you, they stop chasing. It's not malicious, it's just biology. A man values what he earns, not what is handed to him. And when a woman reacts emotionally to his silence, whether it's with desperation, frustration, or even passive aggressiveness, she unknowingly confirms that he has the upper hand. But a woman who masters emotional detachment, she becomes unforgettable. Imagine this. He starts responding slower. His texts become shorter. Maybe he even stops initiating altogether. Most women panic at this stage. They assume they've done something wrong. They try to overcompensate by texting more, making themselves extra available, or subtly trying to get his attention online. But a woman who truly values herself does none of that. Instead, she leans back. She allows the silence to exist. She does not chase. She does not fill the void with unnecessary words. She becomes a mystery, a question he suddenly wants to answer. The power of emotional detachment is not just in what you don't do, but in how you position yourself in his mind. When a man expects you to react, and you don't, he is forced to confront a reality he wasn't prepared for, the possibility that he is losing you. And the beauty of this: you don't have to manipulate, play games, or pretend to be someone you're not. You simply have to master the art of not reacting. But let's be real, it's easier said than done. That little voice in your head will tempt you. Just send one message. Just check his social media. Just post something that'll make him notice you. And that's where the real test begins. Emotional detachment is about discipline. It's about resisting the urge to seek external validation and instead turning inward. The moment you stop looking to him for reassurance and start trusting your own worth, everything shifts. So, how do you do it? 1. Recognize that your emotions are not instructions. Feeling anxious or hurt does not mean you need to act on it. Observe the emotion, acknowledge it, but do not let it dictate your behavior. 2. Remind yourself of this truth. A man who truly values you will never put you in a position where you have to question your worth. If he is ignoring you, whether intentionally or not, he is sending a message. Your job is not to decode that message. It's to decide whether you even want to entertain a man who communicates through absence. 3rd, shift your focus. Instead of obsessing over what he's thinking, what he's doing, or why he's being distant, turn that energy toward yourself. Invest in your own life so fully that you don't have time to wonder about him. This isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about genuinely reaching a place where his actions do not dictate your emotions. The moment you stop making him the center of your attention, he feels the difference. He senses the withdrawal of your energy, and that is when the power dynamic begins to change. But here's the twist. When he does come back, and trust me, he will, you still don't react the way he expects. Most women, the moment a man returns after ignoring them, feel an overwhelming sense of relief. They respond immediately. They pick up where they left off, as if nothing happened. And just like that, the cycle repeats. He learns that he can ignore you without consequences, and over time, his respect for you diminishes. But a woman who is truly detached doesn't rush to respond. She doesn't reward inconsistency with excitement. She makes him earn her attention back. And here's where it gets even more interesting. When a man starts to realize that your emotions are not dependent on his actions, he feels something he rarely experiences with most women: uncertainty. And uncertainty, that's the birthplace of attraction. He begins to wonder, has she moved on? Is she seeing someone else? Why isn't she reacting the way other women do? And suddenly, the script flips. He starts reaching out more. He starts making an effort, not because you manipulated him, but because you refuse to let his behavior dictate your self-worth. Now let's be clear. This doesn't mean you should tolerate disrespect or emotional unavailability. Emotional detachment is not about suppressing your needs or pretending you don't care when you actually do. It's about maintaining your dignity and not giving your energy to someone who isn't reciprocating it. A high-value woman does not beg for attention. She does not tolerate inconsistency. And most importantly, she does not make a man the center of her universe. She is the universe. So, the next time a man starts pulling away, don't panic, don't chase, don't react. Instead, do nothing. Let the silence work for you. Let him feel the absence of your presence, and watch as the weight of ignoring you becomes his burden to bear. Because at the end of the day, the only response a man truly understands is the one he never saw coming. 2, shift your focus. Reinvest in yourself. The moment you stop reacting, something powerful begins to happen. You reclaim the energy you were unknowingly giving away. Think about it. How much mental space has he occupied in your mind? How many times have you replayed conversations, analyzed his behavior, or scrolled through his social media looking for clues. That ends today. Because the truth is, the more you focus on him, the less power you have over your own life. The second you shift that focus back to yourself, something almost magical happens. Most women think that getting a man's attention back requires effort, crafting the perfect text, posting the right photo, or making him jealous. But in reality, the most irresistible thing you can do is this: become so busy elevating yourself that his absence becomes irrelevant. When you make yourself the main character of your life, everything shifts. And guess what? Men notice. The energy of a woman who is deeply invested in herself, who radiates confidence and purpose, is undeniably attractive. So what does this actually look like? It means taking every ounce of energy you would have spent worrying about him and redirecting it into you, your passions, your goals, your physical, mental, and emotional growth. Because here's the thing: when you operate from a place of lack, when your happiness is dependent on his attention, he feels it, and nothing kills attraction faster than neediness. But when you operate from a place of abundance, when you cultivate a life that is rich and fulfilling, with or without him, that's when the dynamic changes. Picture this. He checks his phone, expecting to see a message from you. Nothing. He scrolls through social media, half expecting to see some vague post about relationships, maybe something that hints at you missing him. Instead, he sees you thriving. Not in a performative way, not in a desperate attempt to get his attention, but in a way that radiates pure, unbothered joy. You're at the gym, glowing. You're out with friends, genuinely laughing. You're diving into new projects, expanding your world. And suddenly, a thought creeps into his mind. Did she move on? This is where mystery starts working in your favor. Because let me tell you something about men. They hate feeling replaceable. When a man starts ignoring a woman, he assumes she'll wait. He assumes she'll be there when he's ready to re-engage. But when she doesn't, when he starts to sense that he was just a chapter in her story, not the entire book, that's when the regret kicks in. That's when he realizes that ignoring her wasn't just an act of indifference. It was a mistake. But here's the best part. By the time he realizes it, you won't even care anymore, because you'll be too busy becoming the best version of yourself. And that is the real flex. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about genuinely being hard to get. Because a woman who values herself doesn't chase a man who ignores her. She doesn't beg for crumbs of attention. She doesn't wait around hoping he'll notice her again. She moves forward. She grows. And in doing so, she naturally attracts the kind of attention that doesn't need to be chased. Now I know some of you are thinking, but what if I truly want him back? What if this is just a phase and he comes back around? The answer is simple. If he is truly meant to be in your life, he will return. But when he does, he will return to a woman who is elevated, a woman who isn't just sitting around waiting for his texts. And that means the power dynamic has already shifted. He no longer sees you as someone waiting. He sees you as someone worth chasing. So ask yourself, who do you want to be? The woman who pauses her life every time a man pulls away? Or the woman who becomes so magnetic, so unstoppable, that men feel lucky to be in her orbit? Because that choice, it's entirely yours. And the sooner you make it, the sooner everything changes. If you're feeling this, if you know deep down that it's time to shift your focus and step into your power, then show me you're serious. Like this video and comment number 1 if you're ready to stop chasing and start attracting. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, because what comes next will change the way you handle every man in your life. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. 3. Use mystery to create intrigue. There is something undeniably powerful about a woman who is unpredictable. The moment a man feels like he has figured you out, when he believes he knows exactly how you'll react, when he assumes he has your attention no matter what he does, that is the moment he stops valuing you. But the second you introduce mystery, the moment he starts to question what's going on in your mind, that's when you become irresistible. Nothing grips a man's attention more than the unknown. Most women, when they feel ignored, do the exact opposite of what works. They over-explain, they overshare, they try to clarify where they stand, thinking that if they can just get a little reassurance, they'll feel better. They send long messages trying to pull him back in. They make their emotions obvious, thinking that if he just knew how much they cared, he would change. But men don't work that way. A man doesn't fall for a woman because she tells him how she feels. He falls for her because he feels something he doesn't understand. Let's break this down. Imagine you usually text him every morning. It's become routine. He knows he'll wake up to a message from you. Something sweet, something engaging. It's predictable. And because it's predictable, it's expected. And because it's expected, it loses value. But one day you don't text. You don't post anything. You don't leave any clues as to what's on your mind. Suddenly there's a shift. His brain, which had categorized you as consistent, now has a question. What changed? At first he might not think much of it, but as hours pass, as the day goes by without hearing from you, as he scrolls through his phone and realizes there's nothing there, he starts to wonder, did she forget? Is she mad? Is she with someone else? And just like that, your silence creates intrigue. He starts thinking about you, not because you pushed for his attention, but because you pulled back. And that right there is how mystery works. Now let's take it a step further. When he finally does reach out, because he will. Most women make the mistake of acting too eager. They respond instantly, making it obvious they were waiting for his message. They get emotional, giving him confirmation that their world was, in fact, revolving around him. But you don't do that. You take your time. Maybe you'll see his message and wait before responding. Maybe when you do respond, you keep it short, effortless, slightly detached, not cold, not rude, but different. A subtle shift in tone, a hint of distance, something that makes him notice. And what does this do? It plants a seed of uncertainty in his mind. Suddenly he's not sure where he stands with you. He thought you'd be right there waiting, eager to engage, but you're not. You're a little less available, a little more unpredictable, and that makes you interesting. Men chase what they can't fully have. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about being hard to get. There's a difference. When a woman is truly confident, when she truly values herself, she doesn't need to create mystery. She simply is mysterious. Not because she's trying to manipulate him, but because her life is full, because she's busy, because she's not dependent on his attention to feel validated. And here's the thing. Mystery doesn't mean being unavailable all the time. It doesn't mean ignoring him for days just to see if he notices. It means breaking patterns. It means being unexpected. It means keeping certain parts of your life just for you, not oversharing every detail. It means not always giving him the reaction he expects. It means sometimes pulling back, sometimes shifting the energy, sometimes leaving him wondering what's on your mind. Think about the women men can't forget. They are never the ones who are overly available, always predictable, always trying to prove their worth. They are the ones who had something different, a quality that was hard to define, a presence that was felt even in their absence, a way of being that kept a man on his toes. That is what you need to cultivate. Because the truth is, men don't fall in love with certainty. They don't fall in love with things that feel easy. They fall in love with the chase, with the possibility of losing something valuable, with the excitement of earning a woman's attention. The moment you make it too easy for him, the moment he knows without a doubt that you will always be there, no matter how he treats you, that is the moment his desire starts to fade. So the next time you feel the urge to over-explain, to make things clear, to seek reassurance, stop yourself. Instead, ask, what would a woman who truly values herself do? Would she send a long message explaining her feelings? Or would she let her silence speak for her? Would she try to prove her worth? Or would she simply live her life, knowing that the right man will recognize it without needing to be convinced? Mystery is not a game. It's an energy. It's a way of moving through the world that says, I know my worth. I don't need to prove it to anyone. And when a man senses that energy, he doesn't just notice it, he craves it. Fourth, let time work in your favor. Patience is power in a world where everyone is desperate for instant validation. In a society where people chase after quick fixes and immediate gratification, a woman who knows how to wait holds an unmatched level of control. Time is one of the most underestimated forces in attraction. The longer you hold your silence, the more powerful you become in his mind. The longer you let him sit in the space you've left behind, the deeper he feels your absence. But most women don't use time to their advantage. They panic. They assume that if they don't act now, they'll lose their chance forever. They think that if they don't reach out, if they don't remind him they exist, he'll simply forget them. That's where they're wrong. When you stop chasing and allow time to work in your favor, something fascinating happens. A man who once took you for granted starts to feel something he never expected: discomfort. He may not notice it at first. He may even feel relieved that you're not reaching out. But as days pass, as he realizes that you're not following the pattern he expected, something shifts. He begins to wonder. He starts to question. He goes from assuming your presence to doubting it. And that doubt, that's the seed that grows into curiosity, or regret, and the fear that maybe, just maybe, you've moved on. Men don't miss what's always available. They don't chase what they believe they already have. That's why the most powerful thing you can do when a man starts ignoring you is to simply do nothing. Let him feel the weight of your absence. Let him sit in the silence. Let him wonder where you went, what you're doing, whether you still think about him. Because when you give a man time to experience life without you, he begins to appreciate what he once had. Now here's where most women sabotage themselves. They wait a few days, maybe a week, and then they crack. They send a message, even a casual one, just to check in. They post something designed to get his attention. They break their own silence because they need to know where they stand. And just like that, the power they had been building disappears. He no longer has to wonder. He no longer has to miss her, because she's just reassured him that she's still there, still thinking about him, still waiting. And the moment a man senses that a woman is waiting for him, he feels no urgency to act. But a woman who truly understands the power of time doesn't break her silence. She doesn't give him the relief of knowing where she stands. She lets him be the one to reach out. And when he finally does, because he will, she doesn't immediately reward his attention. She doesn't jump at the chance to talk to him. She doesn't flood him with excitement or let him think that all is forgiven just because he finally decided to show up. Instead, she remains composed, unbothered, different, because that difference, that subtle shift in energy, is what makes him realize that he is not as important in her world as he thought. Here's the secret most women don't realize. The longer you wait, the stronger your impact. The more time you allow to pass, the more he starts to question himself. At first, he might tell himself he's fine without you. He might even convince himself that ignoring you was the right move. But as time stretches on, as weeks go by, as he sees that you haven't reached out, he starts to feel something new. Doubt. He starts to wonder if he was the one who made a mistake. He starts to compare you to other women, and suddenly, your silence becomes louder than anything you could have said. Time doesn't just make him miss you. It makes him reevaluate you. It forces him to remember the things he once admired about you. It makes him realize that maybe he misjudged the situation. And that's when the regret kicks in. That's when he starts to replay the moments he had with you, wondering if he should have handled things differently. That's when he starts to crave the presence he once took for granted. But here's the most important part. By the time he reaches this realization, you may no longer care. Because time isn't just working on him, it's working on you. As he sits there second-guessing his choices, you've been evolving. You've been growing, thriving, stepping into a version of yourself that is no longer affected by his inconsistency. You've been using this time to become a woman who is so deeply secure in herself that whether he comes back or not, no longer defines her worth. This is the real test, not whether he reaches out, but whether you even want him anymore when he does. Because the more you allow yourself to detach, the more you'll see him clearly, not through the lens of longing or nostalgia, but through the lens of reality. And in that reality, you may come to realize that the man who ignored you, the man who made you question your worth, the man who thought he could come and go as he pleased, was never actually good enough for you in the first place. So let time do its job. Let silence be your message. Let him feel the absence of you in a way that makes him wish he had never pulled away. And while he's out there wondering, questioning, regretting you, you'll be living. You'll be thriving. You'll be stepping into the version of yourself that doesn't need to be chased because she is too busy being chosen by something better. If this resonated with you, if you're ready to let time work in your favor, then show me you're serious. Like this video and comment number 1 if you're done chasing and ready to start attracting. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, because trust me, what's coming next will completely shift the way you see relationships, self-worth, and the power you hold. You do not want to miss it. 5. Flip the power dynamic and make him chase. There is a powerful shift that happens when a woman stops being the one who waits, the one who wonders, the the one who overanalyzes his every move. When she finally realizes she was never meant to chase in the first place, everything changes. Men are wired to pursue. The moment they feel like they no longer have to put in effort, when they feel like they've already won, attraction starts to fade. This is why, when a man pulls away and a woman reacts by running after him, by asking what's wrong, by trying to fix things or showing him that she's still emotionally invested, he doesn't feel the need to do anything. She has already confirmed to him that she is still there, still waiting, still his to take for granted. But the second she shifts her energy, when she stops reacting and instead creates space, he starts to feel something unfamiliar, uncertainty. Men do not chase women they feel certain about. They chase the ones they fear they might lose. It's not about playing games or making him jealous for the sake of it. It's about understanding one fundamental truth. People value what they believe they could lose. If a man thinks he can come and go as he pleases, if he believes that no matter what he does, you will always be there, why would he feel the need to step up? But if suddenly the energy shifts, if he starts to sense that he may have miscalculated, that you are no longer as available, as interested, or as certain about him as he thought, then the dynamic changes. The key to making a man chase is not manipulation. It is not pretending to be someone you're not. It is simply about embodying the truth that you are the prize. You do not chase. You do not beg. You do not try to prove your worth. Instead, you let him realize on his own that if he wants access to you, he has to earn it. You do this by pulling back your energy, shifting your focus, and making it clear, without a single word, that you are not waiting for him. Most women believe that if they pull away, they will lose him, that if they stop showing interest, he will forget about them. But that fear is exactly what keeps them stuck. Because here's the truth. If pulling back makes him disappear, if giving him space results in him completely losing interest, then he was never truly invested to begin with. A man who truly wants you, who values you, who sees your worth, will notice the shift. He will feel the distance, and instead of pulling away further, he will move closer. Now let's talk about what actually happens when you flip the power dynamic. The moment you stop initiating, the moment you stop making him the center of your world, he starts to notice. At first, he may not react. He may assume that you're just busy, that you'll come back around eventually. But as time goes on, and he realizes the version of you who was always there, always ready, always seeking his attention, is gone, he starts to feel it. That emptiness, that space you once filled. And suddenly, a thought enters his mind. Did I lose her? This is where a man's instinct to chase kicks in. Men are competitive by nature. They do not like to feel like they've lost something valuable. And when a man starts to sense that you are slipping away, when he sees that you are no longer emotionally invested the way you once were, he begins to act. He starts texting first. He starts initiating conversations. He tries to figure out what's going on, why you've changed, why he doesn't have the same level of certainty about you that he once did. But here's the most crucial part. When he does come back, when he reaches out, when he suddenly starts showing interest again, you do not make it easy for him. This is where most women fail. They get so excited that he is finally chasing that they immediately reward him. They respond quickly, show their excitement, slip back into the same pattern of being overly available. And just like that, he gets his confirmation. She was never really gone. She was just waiting for him to show interest again. And the chase, the effort, stops. The way you keep the power dynamic in your favor is by maintaining your standard. When he reaches out, you do not rush to reply. When he asks to see you, you do not immediately say yes. When he tries to pick up where things left off, you set a new standard. You make it clear through your actions, not your words, that things are not the same. If he wants to be in your life, it's not enough for him to simply show up when he feels like it. He has to put in consistent effort. This is where your true power lies, not in making a man chase just for the sake of it, but in making it clear that your energy, your time, and your presence are valuable. They are not given freely to someone who does not appreciate them. You do not tolerate inconsistency, breadcrumbing, or half-hearted effort, because the moment a man realizes that he cannot take you for granted, that he does not have unlimited access to you, that he is the one who has to work to keep your attention, that is the moment he starts to see you differently. This shift is everything. It takes you from being the woman who is waiting for his attention to being the woman who commands it effortlessly. From being the woman who feels anxious every time he pulls away to being the woman who doesn't even notice because she is too busy living her life. From being the woman who seeks validation from him to being the woman who knows without a doubt that she is the prize. And the best part, when you truly embody this energy, when you become the woman who does not chase, who does not settle, who does not wait around for a man to decide whether or not he wants her, something incredible happens. You stop attracting men who play games. You stop being drawn to men who make you feel uncertain. You have set a new standard for yourself, and that standard naturally filters out the men who are not truly interested, who are not truly invested, and who do not deserve you. So, let him feel the shift. Let him feel the difference. Let him wonder why you are no longer reacting the way he expects. And when he finally realizes that he is the one who has to chase, the one who has to prove himself, the one who has to earn a place in your life, then, and only then, do you decide whether or not he is even worth it. Because a high-value woman does not chase. She attracts. She does not wait. She chooses. And when you fully step into that energy, you will never again find yourself in a position where you have to wonder if a man wants you. The right man will make sure you never have to question it. 6. Establish new standards for your attention. The real lesson in being ignored isn't about getting him back. It's about realizing that your energy, your time, and your presence are not things that should be given away freely. A woman who gives her energy to a man who doesn't appreciate it is a woman telling the world, I do not value myself enough to expect more. That changes today, because now you set new standards. Now you become the woman who does not tolerate inconsistency, the woman who does not entertain men who fail to show up, the woman who no longer settles for breadcrumbs when she deserves the whole damn loaf. The way a man treats you is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of what you allow. If you let him come and go as he pleases, if you allow him to disappear for days and then return with a simple, hey, if you continue giving him your attention even after he has shown you that he doesn't value it, then you are teaching him exactly how to treat you. This is why so many women end up in cycles of inconsistency. They reward bad behavior with continued access because they think that if they just show him how much they care, he will eventually reciprocate. But men don't work that way. A man does not suddenly start valuing you because you love him harder. He starts valuing you when he realizes that if he does not step up, he will lose you. And that realization only happens when you set a new standard, when you make it clear through your actions, not just your words, that you no longer entertain men who give you anything less than what you deserve. And the way you do that, by taking your energy away from men who do not meet your expectations and giving it only to the ones who do. Picture this. He ignored you, pulled away, made you question yourself, but instead of reacting, instead of chasing, instead of waiting, you leveled up. You shifted your energy inward. You stopped prioritizing a man who did not prioritize you. And now he comes back, because they always do. And the way you respond in this moment determines everything. Most women, when a man finally returns, fall back into old patterns. They immediately welcome him back. They act relieved. They feel like they've won. But the truth is, the moment you take him back without requiring anything different from him, you lose all the power you've built. Because he learns that no matter what he does, no matter how long he ignores you, no matter how inconsistent he is, he can always come back. But you're different now. The version of you that he once knew no longer exists. You do not return to old dynamics. You do not allow him to re-enter your life without proving that he deserves to be there. You do not accept the bare minimum. Instead, you make it clear that the only way he gets access to you is if he shows up fully, consistently, and with real intention. Because if he cannot do that, then he does not get you. Simple as that. This is where many women struggle. They fear that if they raise their standards, they will scare men away. But let me tell you something. The only men who are scared of high standards are the ones who cannot meet them. And those are not the men you want anyway. The man who is truly meant for you. The man who sees you. The man who values what you bring. He will rise to meet your standards. He will not need to be convinced, coerced, or manipulated into showing up. He will want to. And the ones who can't, let them go. Because they were never worthy of you in the first place. Think about this. How much time have you spent making excuses for men? How many times have you lowered your expectations because you were afraid of losing someone? How often have you settled for almost, for halfway, for not quite enough? That ends now, because the version of you who steps forward after this moment is a version that no longer entertains men who make her question herself. She no longer allows inconsistency, mixed signals, or hot and cold behavior. She no longer waits for a man to see her worth, because she already knows it. And here's the best part. When you become this woman, the right men notice. The ones who were never meant for you will fall away. But the ones who are ready, the ones who are capable, will come forward. They will be drawn to you in a way that is undeniable. Because a woman who respects herself, who holds high standards, who does not settle, that is the kind of woman who commands real, genuine admiration. That is the kind of woman who attracts the man who is actually worthy of her. So the next time a man who once ignored you comes back, don't ask yourself, do I want him? Ask yourself, does he deserve me? And if the answer is no, you walk away without hesitation, because a woman who values herself does not lower her standards for a man. She requires him to rise to meet them, and if he can't, then you've already won by letting him go. If this hit home for you, if you're done tolerating inconsistency and ready to step into your power, then show me you're serious. Like this video and comment number 1 if you're committed to raising your standards. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. Because trust me, what's coming next will change the way you see yourself, your relationships, and the way you allow men to treat you. You do not want to miss it. 7. The ultimate power move. Genuinely move. On the greatest moment of power you will ever experience is when you realize that you don't need him anymore. Not in a bitter way, not as an act of revenge, but in a way that is so deeply rooted in self-worth that his absence no longer affects you. The true lesson in being ignored is not about making him regret it, though that often happens. It's about stepping into a version of yourself that is so confident, so fulfilled, so completely unattached to his validation that whether he comes back or not becomes irrelevant. This is the moment you stop looking backward. You stop measuring your worth by a man's attention. You stop waiting, wondering, hoping for a sign that he still cares. Because by the time he realizes what he lost, you will have already moved forward. Most women think that moving on means cutting him off, deleting his number, blocking him on social media. While these things can help create distance, true moving on happens internally. It is a mindset shift. It is a deep, unshakable knowing that you are better than the version of you that once waited for him. That you are no longer a woman who needs to prove her worth to a man who failed to see it the first time. That you are no longer emotionally invested in someone who couldn't match your energy, your effort, your presence. The most ironic thing about moving on is that this is what truly makes him regret losing you. Not the games, not the attempts to make him jealous, not the carefully curated posts designed to catch his attention. It is the genuine indifference, the fact that when he finally reaches out, when he finally realizes what he let slip through his fingers, you are no longer there waiting for him to return. This is the moment where you understand real power. Because when a woman reaches a place where she no longer craves a man's attention, she becomes the most magnetic version of herself. Not just to him, but to everyone. The energy of a woman who has fully let go is intoxicating. It is rare. It is something that cannot be faked, cannot be imitated. This is where you start living, really living, not in a way that is meant to prove anything to him, but in a way that is purely for you. This is where you start experiencing the world from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. You realize there are so many people, experiences, opportunities waiting for you outside of this one man. This is where you find yourself again, the woman who was never meant to be stuck in the cycle of waiting, the woman who has always been the prize, the woman who once she fully embraces her worth becomes the kind of presence that no man could ever ignore again. And here's the truth that no one tells you. Once you truly move on, the universe starts aligning things in your favor. The moment you stop chasing what isn't meant for you, better things start chasing you. You begin attracting men who actually see you, who actually value you, who show up consistently without needing to be convinced. You stop wasting time on people who drain you, and instead find yourself surrounded by connections that fulfill you. You stop trying to fix men who don't even know what they want and start attracting people who are ready for what you have to offer. But the best part, when he finally realizes what he lost, and he will, you won't even care, because you'll be too busy being happy, being fulfilled, being so completely whole within yourself that the idea of ever lowering your standards again will seem impossible. And that is the real win, because making him regret ignoring you was never the goal. The goal was to become the version of yourself who never has to deal with a man like that again. When you step into that power, when you stop looking back, when you fully embrace the truth that you are always enough, you don't just move on, you rise. The most powerful thing you can do when a man ignores you isn't to chase him, convince him, or wait for him to come back. It isn't to prove your worth or show him what he's missing. The most powerful thing you can do is to completely reclaim your energy, shift your focus inward, and walk away with the kind of grace and confidence that leaves no room for regret. Because at the end of the day, this was never about him. It was always about you, about how much you value yourself, about what you are willing to tolerate, about the standards you set for the kind of love you allow into your life. A woman who understands her worth does not sit around wondering why a man isn't showing up for her. She doesn't lose sleep over someone who couldn't recognize her value the first time. She doesn't shrink herself just to be chosen. Instead, she chooses herself. She steps into her power, knowing that the right man will never leave her questioning where she stands. She becomes the kind of woman who is so deeply confident, so self-assured, so unshakable in her presence, that no man, no matter how attractive, how charming, or how seemingly special, can ever make her feel like she is not enough again. So let this be the moment you stop waiting. Let this be the moment you stop overanalyzing. Let this be the moment you stop giving your energy to men who do not match it. Let this be the moment you rise. Because the second you do, the second you decide that you will never again accept less than you deserve, everything changes. The way people treat you changes. The way you see yourself changes. And when that transformation happens, when you finally step into the kind of self-worth that cannot be shaken by anyone's absence, you'll look back at this moment and realize that losing him was never the loss. It was the lesson. And that lesson, it made you unstoppable.